Knicks Daily Edition. Welcome back, everybody. The New York Knicks just finished up a historic season, and it shows that we have a great future. This past year's team didn't just win games. We actually built a culture this year. In a league that's obsessed with super teams and instant gratification if we've been 100, the New York Knicks made the Eastern Conference Finals by doing something radical to what this NBA knows. We trusted our cohesion, we trusted our defense, and we brought grit to the table. And all of that was powered by our point guard, also supported by Towns, OG, McCall, Josh Hart, Mitchell Robinson, even Deuce McBride grew. So the Knicks as a team, we finally felt like a complete team. There was no quit in us. There were no bad apples this year. It was just relentless execution, camaraderie, and accountability. And we just didn't get it all the way done. Which is why head coach Tom Thibodeau was let go after this season. The front office, which is led by Leon Rose, a good friend of Tibbs, they're obviously reportedly looking at the next level. Rumors are now starting to swirl to make a push for Kevin Durant or a push for Giannis Antetokounmpo. But here's the thing, and here's my plea. Why gamble when you already have a foundation of a contender? Instead of gutting this team to chase a name, I want to talk about in this video why the New York Knicks should keep this core. Maybe we can add 2 or 3 position tweaks and then go all in on what we've already built. We're also going to look at, campaign, Landry Shamet. They started to get more minutes towards the end of the playoffs. So what does that look like if they were a natural, consistent part of the rotation in the fold? Maybe some of those tweaks are already on our roster. So let's look at it. So let's start with the core. We had a core that nearly cracked the code this season. First, Jalen Brunson's a legit star. Brunson silenced every doubter this year. He wasn't just an all-star. He was a top 10 player in the postseason. His poise, his clutch gene, leadership, all of that was elite. Even in games where other stars faded, Brunson rose again and again. Now, some people will be like, well, in the finals, well, listen, he can't do everything. Then we had Karl-Anthony Towns, who actually revealed himself to be a real good fit in New York. He thrived in our structure. He shot the three, he defended his position, he rebounded with purpose, and he played within himself. He also finally looked like a player who can contribute to winning basketball in May and in June. If we look at Wingstop that we brought in, they served as like defensive supernovas. There were no teams in the East that had a better 2-3 pairing than us. OG and McCall are both elite perimeter defenders. They both can hit the open shot. They both switch on everything, long arms, everything. And then they also can take the toughest assignments without blinking. They neutralized wings like Tatum or Brown easily. Then we had Josh Hart, who played power forward most of the season. He was our heartbeat. He has a motor that's unmatched. Fast breaks, snatches rebounds from bigs, makes winning plays every single night. And with Bridges and Brunson, he also forms the core of the chemistry-based trio that is very tough to replicate in this league. And then I was super excited just to have Mitch back in the postseason. He clearly was a forgotten X factor for us. Before his injury, Mitch was one of the best defenders in the NBA. His shot blocking, his vertical spacing, his rim protection, all of that opened the door for others to gamble defensively. He gives the Knicks a true safety net behind the wings. And then I'm super proud of Deuce McBride and his growth. The man came into the league as a stopper. He's really turning out to be a young stopper for us. He's grown into a vital bench piece. His on-ball pressure disrupts elite guards. He hits open threes now, and he's fearless, which is rare for a young player in New York. He's the kind of piece contenders need. So those are many of the reasons why super excited about this year. But this is why I think you don't blow this up for KD or Giannis. I think in this league, in this day, in this generation, chemistry is currency. This Knicks team moves with synchronicity. The Villanova ties are a real thing. Defensive trust. The role clarity was questionable according to the players. But I think adding players like that could warp team dynamics. They need the ball. They come with eco-altering systems and styles of play. You got to ask yourself, is it worth unraveling what we've built? Because if you do, you'd have to gut the roster. If we get Durant, or if we get Giannis, you know we got to give up at least Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, different picks, and maybe even Mitchell Robinson or Josh Hart. That's not necessarily upgrading. That's rerouting the entire train. It would be like winning a playoff marathon and deciding to change your shoes before the final mile. Too late and too risky. So honestly speaking, I think the timeline is already perfect. If we're looking at Jalen Brunson, Karl-Anthony Towns, OG, McCall, Hart, they're all in their prime. Deuce is ascending. Mitch Rob is still in his 20s. And right now as a team, we aren't waiting for development or praying for a rebuild. We're right where we need to be. Right where we need to be. So instead of a shakeup, why not maybe just refine the blade? This year's team doesn't need an overhaul. We need complementary skills, not primary scorers. The postseason, it did expose a few cracks that we have to address without chaos. We definitely need a backup offensive organizer. Jalen Brunson carried a massive burden this season. While Deuce McBride gave you defense, the offense often stalled when Brunson was on the bench. So as a team, I think we need a steady, low turnover point guard who can run the show without hijacking the system. The solution may already be on the roster with Cam Payne. I think he deserves an extended look. He is a savvy playmaker with playoff reps, but he's a streaky shooter. And the confidence to take, shots is there. We've seen it. So maybe a player like Tyus Jones or a similar vet wouldn't hurt either. But if Payne becomes inconsistent, then we definitely have to target a player like Tyus Jones. We also need a stretch big or another floor spacer at the 4-5. When Karl-Anthony Towns and Mitchell Robinson play together, the defense did excel, but the offense occasionally crimped. So adding a stretch 5 or a skilled 4 who can shoot and pass, maybe somebody like a Kelly Olynyk, could possibly give the lineup flexibility. Towns can then move to the 5 when Mitch sits without giving up the spacing. I think even with wing stop, to be able to have wing depth as well and shooting assurance is going to be important going into next season. Mikal Bridges and OG are Iron Men, but if either of them gets hurt, we don't want to have to depend solely on Josh Hart to cover all wing defense. So adding a 3-and-D wing who can step in during injuries, during foul trouble, and when fatigue starts to set in, that's going to be vital for us. Now, I think what we've seen in the last few games of the past series is Landry Shamet was able to step in and be disruptive. He could be a secondary ball handler. He could be a sniper. But his defense sometimes could be limited. If we added somebody like maybe a Royce O'Neal, that would make this rotation a little bit more bulletproof. So I think it's key to find ideal targets that also fit the vibe of the squad. I think we have 3 realistic additions who wouldn't course that vibe check. I talked about Tyus Jones as a backup point guard or a Brunson type of clone for insurance. He's steady, he's smart, he's efficient. He doesn't make much mistakes. He gives you 20 solid minutes of playmaking every night. Also, I think he could close some games in a 2-point guard set with Brunson if needed. I think the cost would be that it would cost us a little bit of a cap creativity, and we may have to do like a sign and trade for him. I also mentioned Kelly Olynyk. He would be a stretch big who has brains. He brings the brains to the table. He shoots, he passes, he screens. He knows how to play in playoff environments. So I think for him to be a backup 5 behind Mitch or a stretch 4 next to Towns, I think that would be good for us. It might cost us a mid-level exception or maybe even a trade exception as well. And then we have Royce O'Neal, who I talked about, who we could plug and play as a 3 and D wing. He defends the 2 and the 4. He can hit threes, but he's also a veteran. And I think he would relieve OG and McCall and help improve the defense coming off of the bench. I think the price for him would be super low. We may be able to pick him up in free agency. So if the New York Knicks decide depth would be the focus and we revise it, then I think we would roll out a 25-26 Knicks team that still could compete at the level we did and not have to blow everything up. So we would be looking at a possible lineup. I hope we take Josh Hart out the starting lineup this year and that we plug Mitch in, move Josh Hart to the bench. That'll be a little bit more energy and a little bit more familiarity on that second unit. But to have Tyus Jones, a Deuce McBride, a Josh Hart, a Royce O'Neal if we have him, Olynyk, and then a Shamet, bruh, what honestly speaking, we could rest our entire starting lineup with that type of rotation. And then we could roll with a 10-man rotation, having 3 elite defenders on the wings, 2 shot creators in Brunson, Payne, or Jones, 2 stretch bigs, Towns, Olynyk, 2 bench shooters, Shamet and O'Neal, and rim protection in Mitch. So that would keep our culture rooted in the chemistry that we have, and we don't really lose much. I just think you can't manufacture chemistry. And right now, the Knicks already have it, and the league sees it. Think about what this Knicks team represents. We haven't had drama. No press conference cryptic quotes. No Instagram unfollows. Just basketball bonding and belief. We would risk all of that for a 35-year-old Kevin Durant. Or 1 foot out of the door. I don't want to say that because Giannis is only 30 years old, and I would love to have Giannis on the squad. But the Knicks have earned the right to run this thing back. This isn't sentimentality right now. It's a smart basketball decision, and one that I think overall we may actually go towards. But in essence, I just don't think we're at the point where we need to chase stars. We need to build on what we've built. The 2025 Knicks came within 2 wins of the finals. We did it with defense. We did it with heart. The question is going to be what coach we bring in. But at the same time, I trust Leon Rose. I trust Leon Rose, man. He hasn't really, like Snoop Dogg would say, that don't miss. He had a couple of moves that were just like, we think about Evan Fournier and Kemba Walker. But he was just knocking the rust off. But I do trust Leon Rose, and I look forward to seeing what this team can do. But this team that we had really had a New York energy to it, and we came 2 games within going to the finals. But what say you, Knicks fans? Keep this in mind. Same thing applies to life that applies to our team, baby. If there's no struggle, there's no progress. But always remember this: whether it's out there in the real world or here in these YouTube streets, here in Knicks Deli, everybody eats. I'm your boy Shid, and I'm out. Peace.